Alright there folks, this is Dan Fagella, and in this brief CLVboost tutorial, we're going to talk about the inbound marketing fundamentals, essentially how to use good content and a solid social schedule in order to generate more leads and sales. And in this video, we're going to first talk about what is inbound marketing very briefly. Next, why it's important to know your market and your positioning well before you get into such a regimen. Third, we're going to talk about how to integrate social blogging and content as well as email into a inbound marketing strategy. And last, we're going to talk about how often to do each of these and how to implement them in your particular business. Of course, everybody's business will be a little bit different, but in this video, you're going to have a basic framework about how to plug in an inbound marketing strategy into your business. So first and foremost, what is inbound marketing? So we have the term up here. What is inbound marketing? The idea essentially, and this has been going on since before the term inbound marketing actually existed. Luckily enough, it was branded by HubSpot, who sort of now runs the show in terms of using it as terminology. But inbound marketing is leveraging content in a way that generates activity, engagement with your audience online in kind of an organic sense, and generates leads and sales that way, as opposed to putting yourself out there in more of an interruptive style traditional marketing of putting yourself on a banner, putting yourself in somebody else's email newsletter and kind of popping up in places where maybe they don't want to find you. Inbound marketing is using the intent and the desires and desired benefits of your market to pull them to you, to have them find your social presence, your Twitter handle, your blog, your YouTube channel, in order to learn something useful, in order to glean useful information, in order to engage with a service or product like yours in a way that helps them educate themselves and at the same time helps them build trust in a relationship with you. So instead of again, kind of outbound or interruptive marketing, this is more drawing folks into yourself. But before we talk about how to integrate social and which social channels you might want to use, how to leverage content, or how to even use email, we'd really have to get a solid understanding of who your actual market is and what your positioning is. If you're going to be building sort of this online real estate of blog and social presences, these really strong online presences of your own, which will be drawing people into you, we'd have to know why they'd want to come to you in the first place and what they're looking for in the first place as well. So if you're selling some kind of software in the financial trading space, for example, just using an example of one of our clients here at CLVboost, you'd want to know who your buyer actually is. Who are the folks that buy your particular kind of financial trading software? Dashboard software, reporting software, candlestick charts, whatever you do in the financial trading space. And then what does your particular product do differently that would make them actually want to purchase from you, as opposed to the 400 other folks that do something similar on the web? We could do easily a 2-hour webinar on this topic. This is going to be a much shorter video than that, so I won't go too much into knowing your market and your positioning. But what I will say is, if you're out there kind of banging away on social and banging away on the blog, and just hoping you're going to be drawing folks in without really having a solid dialed-in strategy here, you're sort of missing the mark in some respect. We really want to have an understanding of who your market is, how you uniquely fit that, and we want to craft your messages on social and craft your video and article content around not only what people are looking for, but how you can deliver on those benefits that they're looking for in a unique way, how you're positioned to serve them in a unique way, and why they might want to actually purchase from you. So knowing this is essential before ever getting into, well, how many times do I post on Facebook a day? Oh, geez, that's really not question number one. Question number one is up here. So get a good sense of that beforehand, and that'll help to sort of mold the types of content that you get into. We'll talk first about social, and I'll use my little doodle wand here. We'll use the blue color. So this might be Facebook. This might be Twitter. This might be YouTube. This could be essentially any social channel, and we'll talk about sort of deciding which might be most appropriate for you and your particular market. in general, folks, not always, but in general, and particularly when we're talking about just generating front-end leads, social is really a place where you want to attract and educate people who are somewhat interested in what you're up to, or sort of considering options, as opposed to people who are ready to purchase. There are types of content that you'll want to prepare for folks who are ready to buy, and we're going to get into that when we talk about blogs and email. Although it can be integrated into your social schedule, I consider it to be rather touchy and often considered to be rather pushy. And normally, our goal with social is to generate leads, bring people into our environment, into our email list, and then be able to convince and convert from there. Rather than saying, hey, here's my product, why don't you buy it? You do that on Facebook, you get some sort of gnarly comments. It's not exactly a friendly time. Social is normally where we want to pull people to our blog, pull people to our email accounts, where we can then start to market in an overt sense, where we won't get such a backlash as we might on social. Social is really for people who are just bumbling about, looking at pictures. Generally speaking, they're not itching to purchase in that particular environment, so we want to keep our content congenial with their initial intentions. So coming up with related topics and content for whatever our product is, okay? I'll use another example of a CLVboost client. We have somebody who's with us now who's, since they've been working with us on the email side, pretty much exclusively on the email marketing side, which is arguably what we're best known for, they have tripled their revenue. And so now the goal is, man, how do we collect more leads, because these email things are really working well. And so now we're working on a social regimen as well. These particular folks sell fitness-related products on the internet, okay? They sell fitness products on the internet. How to get in shape. Basically at-home workouts, body weight-only workouts, things along those lines. So in terms of social content, this particular person is selling to someone over 40, so we're talking about demographics and positioning, someone who's over 40, and who has a busy life and kids and things like that, and they want to be able to work out without a gym membership because they don't want to be embarrassed, but they also want to be able to do a workout very quickly and get great results in terms of losing weight and having a nice kind of toned physique. These aren't people that want to be big burly muscle builders. They just want to have a good toned physique and kind of stay attractive for their spouse and things like that. And sort of not fall out of shape like many of their other middle-aged friends. And the positioning of this particular client of ours is that these folks can do that at home, and that they can do that with only their body weight. They don't need to go get a Bowflex machine. They don't need to get a bunch of hefty weights to hurl around. They can really just use gravity and their own physical form and sort of cut the mustard there in terms of getting their fitness results. So what are some related topics and content? For this particular person, YouTube and Facebook tends to work pretty well. We're not really active on Twitter right now because whipping out fitness content doesn't seem to catch on as much there. We haven't really focused there in the past. Facebook, for anybody who isn't already familiar, gets pretty viral when it comes to sort of workout motivation, kind of that whole category of workout motivation, workout videos, things along those lines tends to work pretty well in terms of sort of what kind of content picks up. Similarly, YouTube, of course, if we're talking about fitness instruction, by golly, YouTube is the most popular video social media channel that there is out there, and so thumping away in regular content in YouTube would be useful as well. So now the decisions are around how often are we posting on Facebook and how often are we posting on YouTube. So I'll just use a random example here. We could say hypothetically that we'd want to post maybe twice a day on Facebook with respect to lighter level content around fitness and workouts. So this would be driving people to YouTube videos. For the most part, it's actually going to be driving them to blogs, where we're then going to aim to convert them into email subscribers in a little bit here. But we might want to begin with a couple posts a day on Facebook and really kind of plug away there with that as a particular regimen, and maybe one time a week with YouTube. If we really get ambitious, maybe we pop up 2 videos a week on YouTube. So we've got a couple videos a week on YouTube. We've got a couple Facebook posts per day that we're cranking away on. And this is for folks who are, in general, somewhat interested. We're not talking about products and buying products. We're talking about just check out these workouts. Here's some fun ways to lose weight at home. Here's some alternatives to weightlifting that can still get you a lean physique. Different things along those lines. So this is educational content. This is the nature of inbound marketing. What does your market out there looking for, searching for, hungry for in the first place? And let's give it to them for free. Let's give them great stuff for free so that they can come to know and like us, and so that we can actually both educate them and work our sales process at the same time. So that's, that might be what we would do as a basic regimen here. Considering options might be on social. Generally, again, these folks usually are not ready to purchase when they're zipping around on Facebook looking at fitness motivational images. But every now and again, we might want to whip out on social something that appeals to people at a different point in sort of the buyer's journey. So here we have the buyer's journey. People who are somewhat interested, people that are kind of considering the options. They're in the market at this point. They're looking around, and then people are ready to purchase. It's just a matter of sort of having a good enough offer to get that credit card out, and they are ready to rock and roll, with your software, your product, whatever the case may be. So this is the buyer's journey. So if we're going to appeal to the second tier of the buyer's journey, we'll want to have a certain cadence of how often we're releasing content in this area as well. So maybe once a day, or maybe 3 times a week, whatever the regimen is that we end up deciding on, we would put up a post that maybe compares body weight workouts with something else and goes over the pros and cons. Maybe you can't build as much muscle as weightlifting, but it does allow you to burn a similar amount of calories, or it does allow you to still work on some hypertrophy and build some muscle mass there, things along those lines. So this might be kind of looking at alternative products, alternative fitness ways of getting in shape per se, where we might be aiming to appeal on social with content. Again, this is probably going to be in this category here, with our own content that appeals to somebody who's considering their options. They're thinking about, what fitness program do I buy? Which fitness regimen do I commit to really change my life this year, to really transform my body this year? So we'll determine a certain regimen that we want to appeal to in terms of those folks. Part of this will be a factor of how many people on our fan page do we think are in each category. If we think there's, most of the folks that are on our page, just so everybody knows, most of the time they're really likely to be in this category more than anything else. But if you think that there's a good amount who are considering their options, then shucks, at the same time, we should be whipping out a certain percentage of our content that fits in this category. And so we would want to do just that. Similarly speaking, again, we'd want to have some kind of a regimen. So it wouldn't be, well, every now and again we'll really remind ourselves to put out content that on social that appeals to people who are considering their options. That's probably not going to work out so well. Rather than doing that, we would want to really regiment the days. So if we're posting social content once a day for people that are considering options, and twice a day for people that are somewhat interested in, then maybe these posts would be at 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. and maybe this one would be at noon. That's a completely arbitrary example, but it's a solid example of sort of where you might begin. And then, of course, you'd want some kind of a Google spreadsheet where whoever is actually doing these posts is able to track and say, hey, I posted 3 times today, I posted 3 times this next day, etc., etc. And then we get both of these categories in there. What is this social stuff all driving towards? Well, sometimes we can drive them directly to a squeeze page for something like a webinar or a free white paper or things along those lines. That's more of this category. So if we're going to take folks from here straight to here, I feel like I'm like on one of those, John Madden, like editing a football game with my marker here, drawing all these circles and lines. But if we want to take folks directly to email from our social, generally this is going to be the people that are considering options. They're willing to literally give up their email address to you. They're literally willing to fill out a survey, fill out a form for a white paper, fill out a webinar registration page in order to immediately give you their contact information. They have enough trust or enough interest to actually do that. Now, do you want all of your Facebook posts to be get my white paper? No, because most of your Facebook visitors are in this category. But every now and again, you can leap them directly to here, and that's going to be this regimen. You get to determine what percentage of your social visitors you think fit this category, that you can just jump them right over and go to posts that have to do with comparing content or drive them directly to email. You get to sort of make that call yourself. But in general, most of your social content is going to take, most of your social folks are going to be fitting more this category, and we're going to be bringing them over to this world, your blogs, audio, and video that's housed on your organic web presence, your blog sites, your brand sites, your core content pages online, which will eventually really be your solid organic presence that pulls in its own set of leads without you having to spend money on paid advertising or anything like that. So this ends up being sort of the fortress. This is really the entity which you are building up organically, that you're going to build online clout, you're going to build organic traffic, you're going to build search ranking, you're going to build authority in your niche and space. Is going to be on your core organic web presence. If you have a company blog, it would be that. If you have a blog that's off of your company site that you want to build up to sort of be the authority and keep your brand site separated from it, well, then it's going to be your blog site. Wherever you produce and churn out content, that's going to be eventually the authority in your niche and space if you do your inbound marketing properly here. So for your blog, you're going to want to create content that fits all three of these stages of the buyer's journey. So unlike social, you may in fact have people bumble along onto your website who are really ready to buy. And unlike social, if they aren't ready to buy, they're less likely to leave angry comments like, hey, why are you putting up this post that asked me to buy something or is telling me to purchase something? You will get angry responses like that on Facebook, but if you write a blog that advertises for one of your services and talks about it in depth, you're not going to get the same kind of bite back that you would in social. People have a different intent. And there's different kind of levels of social acceptability of kind of pitching yourself or promoting your offers when you're on your own darn website. So now you've got to think to yourself, whoever's in control of your inbound marketing regimen, what percentage of the folks that bumble along into my website on a day-to-day basis from social or otherwise are sort of somewhat interested in a light level. Maybe they're in this game, maybe they're willing to buy. If we keep up with my example of my fellow in the fitness space, maybe these people are really itching to purchase a program, or maybe they're just sort of, they're thinking about working out. Someday they'll start, and they don't really know when. What percentage of your folks fit that mold? Somewhat interested, not committing to anything. How many of your folks really fit that gambit? Similarly, how many of the people that bumble along into your website are considering options? How many of them are really thinking about making a purchase, and they're sort of looking for who might be the right fit? And then what's the percentage of these people that might be really ready to run and gun and really make that purchase in the near future here, and they're ready to go? What are the various percentages? Now, based on that, in general, you'll want to determine how often you're creating content in these three categories. So if you very rarely have folks to your site that are somewhat interested, and really most of the people that make their way to your site are in the considering options realm, then maybe you'll be producing more content here. For most of you listening into this call, it will mostly be people who are somewhat interested. Generally speaking, most website traffic is in this category and not the others. But regardless, so now you have to make the determination of how often am I writing content for these particular categories. We might decide that we're going to do 2 posts per week that are for people who are lightly interested. For my fellow in the fitness space, these might be posts about 7 different crazy bodyweight workouts to lose weight. They might be nutrition tips for busy parents. Whatever the case may be, right? We might be creating lighter content, and maybe we would one time a week be doing an audio interview on a podcast. So and maybe these two blogs also include video in the actual blogs. We take some of our YouTube videos, we put them in the blog post. So twice a week, we're going to write a blog. Once a week, we're going to put up a podcast. Very arbitrary example. I'm just giving you examples. Similarly speaking, considering options. You know, how many folks are sort of hitting your site that might fit this bill? Maybe once a week we ought to be writing a blog post about this. And then ready to purchase, maybe once a month, we might want to be creating an article about this. What I will say is that for many of you listening in on the call, if you do not have a team dedicated to content marketing, and it's going to really be you either managing writers and content creators or doing it yourself, you'll often want to create a small stable of this category of blog and organic content, and then reuse it and reuse it and reuse it again with your email list, as opposed to continuously writing this every week. This may not be worth the juice may not be worth the squeeze on doing this every week. However, having a good stable of this kind of content becomes rather fruitful, and we'll talk about that when we talk about email in just a moment. So you'll come up with your own regimen here. And what you're thinking about is, what is most useful for my market? And what is really most useful, relevant to my positioning? What am I best at and that I can teach better than anyone else? Why would someone want to learn from me and want to purchase from me as opposed to learn from every other Joe Schmo who's selling fitness products online, who's selling financial trading software online? So as we're bearing these points in mind, we're creating the content, and then we're using social to drive folks to our content. In general, although we can use social to drive to other people's websites, our objective, generally speaking, is to bring them to our own webpage. So we can take people in this category, and we take our regimen of posting, maybe one time a day on Facebook in this category, and slamming them right into the email list. This could be with webinars. This could be with white papers. This could be with surveys. But generally speaking, most of our social activity for most businesses, okay, I'm not going to be dogmatic, but I am going to say most, is going to be driving people to these categories. In general, your social posting is going to be driving people to these categories. And these categories are then going to move people into email. So on your blog post about fitness tips, on your blog post about nutrition, on your blog post about comparing body weight exercises versus other kinds of exercises, you will have a white paper, you will have a webinar, you will have a free video series, you'll have a free guide, you'll have a free trial, whatever the case may be, that's going to convert folks into your email list. When someone is on your email list now that we talk about this, we're going to delve right into email and wrap things up. And then we're going to talk about how to determine what regimen you should have in your own business, okay? But we're going to talk about email as its own tool in the inbound marketing game. Often isn't really considered to be an inbound marketing factor. In my opinion, it very much is. So anyone who opts in for your content via email, generally speaking, is more likely to be in this category than they are maybe to be here. Not necessarily, okay? Not necessarily, but in general, your percentage of folks in your email list who are here rather than here, in terms of considering options as opposed to being somewhat interested, is much higher than it would be on social. On social, you're going to aggregately have a huge percentage of folks that are in this category. In email, we might say that these folks have a monicum of interest, a legitimate monicum of interest enough to provide an email address, maybe provide more information than that. Although we might have folks in the email address who fit this bill, we're going to talk about these because these are going to drive us to sale. So we'll get right into that topic right now. So let me delete these crazy arrows I doodled for you. Okay, so once we've taken people from this content category and this content category, and sometimes straight from social, and we've put them on the email list. Again, social's whole goal, basically speaking, is to drive folks to this presence and to drive folks to the email list, to our subscriber list. In general, that's really what's going to get the job done in terms of sales down the line. So once we fed this system with the right kind of content, given what our market wants and given what we're good at, once we fed this system, now we need automated sequences that are going to convert folks from this considering phase into this ready to purchase phase, and from this ready to purchase phase into buying. All right? So if we have some kind of opt-in that lets folks get a free nutrition guide, and they're now considering options in sort of the nutrition space, or maybe they're somewhat interested in the nutrition space, we'll need some kind of an autoresponder sequence, some kind of an automated email sequence that's going to then take those folks, drip, 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 email by email, to the point where they are now considering options, to the point where they are now ready to purchase, and then of course we get them to purchase. So you may have various different opt-ins with various different email funnels. Now for some folks, that's a real point of kind of perturbation there. Oh, darn it, now I got to make multiple email chains. If you do this right, yes you do. If you look at the folks who are best at inbound marketing, including HubSpot themselves, they will have multiple email chains depending on what people opt in on the front end. Although you can have one solid email chain, anybody who opts in gets these 8 emails in a row, we try to sell them. That's sloppy, and it's not really appealing to the individual benefits people are after, and it's not ideal inbound marketing, okay? We are very much all about segmentation here at CLVboost. We're very much all about maximizing conversion, and that has to do with really appealing to the benefits people were looking for in the first place. So if people will use some little letters to represent what we're talking about here. If people sign up for nutrition, we'll ideally want an autoresponder sequence, an automated email sequence that takes folks from being somewhat interested to looking to buy your nutrition course. If they opt in for a fitness program, a free fitness program, we will want to get them to the point where they're ready to consider options and then ready to buy one of our fitness programs. And if we have other core programs we want to sell them from here, that's another CLVboost tutorial entirely. But initially, we want to have autoresponder sequences that sell our core programs. In addition to autoresponder sequences, however, okay, so after people initially opt in because they love your blog, they love your YouTube videos, you send them to a great webinar from Facebook, they saw a nice white paper on one of your blog posts, whatever the case may be, once they've opted into your list and once their autoresponder is over, they're now sitting in your list. And you've got, thousands and thousands and thousands of people on your email list. Even if you're only at hundreds at this point, that's fine, but thousands, tens of thousands of people on your email list, and they're sitting here. And some of them are at this level of interest, some of them are at this level of interest, some of them are at this level of interest. The question is, are you rotating the right messages to the right groups to convert as many of them as possible? For most people, the answer is no. I just send the same message to everybody, which is the wrong answer, by the way. So the ideal here now is to ask yourself, of my email list, what percentage of them fits in this category, and this category? What percentage of them are somewhat interested, considering options, and ready to purchase? Then what we're going to want to do is with our newsletter emails, we'll want to appeal to these different groups. Now, if you've been very intelligent with your email marketing and you've segmented who these people are, and who these people are inside your email marketing system, well, then we've made things rather easy in terms of targeting them with individual messages. If you have not, we've got to sort of blanket everybody with messages and pick people up as they read our specific notes. So with that being said, if most of the people in our email list, or if we have a clump of the people in our email list who are somewhat interested, what we're going to want to do with these people is most likely educate them a bit more. So we're going to want to send them a certain kind of educational content, and most likely get them back to the blog. Potentially get them to a blog that's going to gear them towards an offer, that's going to gear them towards considering options or being ready to purchase. We're going to want to move them down this buyer's journey by exposing them to content that might encourage them to do just that. Similarly, many of them might be considering options, and some of them might be ready to purchase. Now, your question is, how often do I want to send out an email? What we might do as a general regimen, if we're using my fitness client as an example, here at CLVboost, our fitness fella, we've got a couple of them, we might send out one email newsletter per week that has to do with one of our blog posts that aims to get people to sort of think about one of our products. Not an overt pitch, but gets them to think about it. And then we might also have another newsletter per week that sort of more overtly talks about our own courses and products. Maybe it's not an overt straight sale to the face, but it's more overtly talking about one of our courses and something that we sell. And so maybe it's a bit educational, but it's really talking about a product, and it's geared towards people that are considering a product. And this one is more purely educational, but there's some exposure to the product somewhere on the blog where we can kind of keep them in touch, get them interested, and see if they want to click away themselves and sort of get themselves that product on their own accord. So this is just an example. Maybe with this company, we would send out 2 newsletters per week, once on Tuesday and once on a Thursday, every week, and have one of them be more purely educational, one of them more considering options. So this is an example we've used with our social, our blogging slash podcasting, and our email examples here. We've talked about their connections, and we've used the example of a fitness business. Your question now, as we wrap up this CLVboost tutorial, is how often am I going to do each of these various activities? And that's going to vary on a bunch of different factors. One of them being, what are the resources? Is this you marshaling the entirety of the inbound marketing game plan yourself, or do you have a team behind you? If it's just you, we're going to be getting a little bit skimpier on social and blogging, and we're going to be using tools like Hootsuite. You want to get a tool called Hootsuite to schedule your social media messages into the future in social, so you don't have to do them in real time. And you might want to also hire some really good bloggers who can ghostwrite for you, or you might want to set aside adequate time to do some writing yourself. If you're handling this yourself, doing 1 or 2 posts a week on social and posting 2 or 3 times a day on social is probably going to have to do the job, at least initially, right? And then maybe sending out, depending on your niche, which we'll talk about in a second, somewhere in the kind of 2 to 5 emails per week ballpark. There's no dogmatic rules here. I'm just giving you a little bit of a feel and a lay of the land. If you have a team behind you, you might be able to post on Twitter 6 times a day if your following is deep enough and strong enough. But again, you'll want to focus on the social channels that are congenial to your niche and industry, right? For CLVboost, we do a decent amount of work with people in kind of the software world who are interested in kind of startups and growing their businesses. And there's a lot of those people on Twitter. Twitter is sort of very active for that particular kind of human being. And so we do stay active on Twitter. YouTube, there's a decent amount of marketing tutorials there, so we stay somewhat active there as well. For some of you, Facebook is not professional enough for your business. If you're a lawyer, you may lean away from Facebook and not really want that to be a clutch aspect of your marketing strategy. You might just want to stick to YouTube and to LinkedIn, for example, or Vimeo and LinkedIn as another different social regimen. So you want to think about your business in terms of which social platform is most appropriate, where are you most likely to find your market, your people. But once you've made that decision, how much bulk can you get out there is really going to depend on who is managing it and how much of a team do you have behind you to manage it. The reason I mentioned beforehand having a stable of blog posts that are really about getting people to buy, these are blog posts that are basically convincing people to buy today. Call us today, buy today. The reason you want to have a stable of these is because once a week, once a month, 3 times a month, whatever the case may be, you're going to want to send from your email account to these kinds of posts. Instead of sending straight to a sales page, you want to be able to send to content, but it's content that's really geared towards finally closing this gap and getting that credit card out. Finally closing the gap and getting that appointment actually done. So you want to have a small stable of these kind of posts. You don't want to write one of these every week, probably. Most of you who are new to content marketing, that would be a little bit much for you. You'd probably just want a small stable of maybe, let's say, 6 of them, or even just 3 of them to start off with. And then you can take the people who you know are interested, or you can take your whole list once in a blue moon, or once a month, and you'll send them along to here. Now, once you've determined a basic regimen for yourself, okay, baseline would be 2 blog posts a week, 2 to 3 social postings per week on whatever your channel is. If it's YouTube, you might want to make that 2 a week. On Facebook, that might be more like 2 a day. Twitter, that might be more like 2 a day. And then you want to keep up that regimen and use that to again, feed folks to your blog content, feed them to your email, and then keep up your regimen with your newsletters. Now, the difficult part about this is staying rigorous. What you're ultimately going to want to set up is a Google spreadsheet that has the day of the week, I'm trying to make a Google spreadsheet with a little online crayon here. It's not going to work out so well. But you'll have the day of the week. You'll have the social channel. And if you post once a week on YouTube, then once a week you'll have your checkbox that you're going to put. If you post twice a day on Facebook, you want to put 2 checks in all your days on Facebook, etc. If you post twice a week with your email newsletter, then you'll post twice a week with your email newsletter, etc. Okay, you understand? So essentially, once you come up with a basic inbound marketing regimen, you're going to want to stick with that regimen. Now, the benefit is once you've stuck with a regimen like this and you've really plugged away and you've really built fantastic online content over time, this is going to have a snowball effect, and you'll be able to pull more and more organic traffic to your list. Your email list will be driving more people to your blogs. You'll be getting more engagement and sharing there, and you'll be able to have this continual stream of leads and of sales from your own online organic presence, so long as you're matching it to your market and you're matching it to what you do best with your own positioning and why people would buy from you. So the individual decisions may vary per business. Hopefully I've given you a good idea about how social, blogs, and email work together to move people down this process of the buyer's journey, and how you can track that for your own business and develop your own regimen to consistently implement inbound marketing. Not writing a blog once in a blue moon, not posting on social when you think about it, but really cultivating a specific routine that allows you to consistently build your online presence, consistently glean social engagement, consistently fill up your email funnel, and consistently drive sales. So hopefully this has been helpful for everybody. If you have any questions at all, you can always send us an email here at info@CLVboost. And otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial.